Republican candidates are apparently they're running scared. I don't know.
Welcome to Lean to the Left, home of no-holds-barred commentary, plus interviews with fascinating people. Some of them top experts, others simply with interesting stories to tell. You'll never know who'll show up at Lean to the Left. Now here's your host, Bob Gaddy.
Hey guys, welcome to the Lean to the Left podcast. Today we're talking politics, and with me are my political pals, Arthur Hill from North Carolina and Robert Thompson from the great state of Georgia. Arthur is communications chair of the Brunswick County, North Carolina Democratic Party. He and I both worked in PR and as freelance writers in Washington, D.C., although not together. I never knew this guy back then, but we also both worked on Capitol Hill, and so that was
didn't know each other then either.
Anyway, Robert Thompson is based in Atlanta, and he founded Peach News Now and its opinion podcast, Got Damn Liberals. Now that's GOT Damn Liberals. It's an awesome podcast, and he takes no prisoners. In our last episode, we revealed how he has a fetish with some blonde wacko from Georgia named Marjorie.
That's fake news,
welcome,
by the way,
guys. And you can see from, if you're watching this, not everybody's going to get to watch this, but if you're watching it, you can see that he no longer is appearing as Marjorie. He's appearing as a muscle-bound guy who is promoting two candidates in Georgia.
Is that what that stuff is? Muscles?
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. You're too kind.
You got it. Warnock and Abrams. All right. So anyway, welcome, guys. There's a lot going on here in South Carolina, and a lot of it has to do with Republicans making news like only the Horry County Republican Party can. Now, for those of you who don't know, Horry County is home to the resort area of Myrtle Beach, but to the west, there's a lot of rural area. And for years, it's been dominated by Republicans. But today, those guys are in disarray, squabbling with the state GOP over its effort to prevent the MAGA crowd from taking over. This week, the entire county GOP leadership team resigned, including QAnon influencer Tracy Beanz, that's Beanz, Diaz, who is one of the 5 top-ranking members of the local party. Diaz's time with the HC GOP was plagued by drama, including infighting and a lawsuit against it by a local man who said he was assaulted at a QAnon event.
Imagine that.
The county GOP leadership complained that the state GOP was trying to silence the true America First patriots, and they promised to continue to fight to expose the truth. Meanwhile, the county Democratic Party that I work with is working in unison on behalf of some great candidates for the state legislature, especially Ashland Priu, Ryan Thompson, and Ernest Carson. Against some strong odds, I think they have a real shot, and that would really shake things up. The county party is holding its biggest fundraiser called the Shore Dinner later this month, and the proceeds will be used to help support Democratic candidates. And then, of course, there is Senator Lindsey Graham with his new bill to impose a nationwide abortion ban after 15 weeks, a proposal that the pundits say is doing nothing but divide the Republicans. We can talk about that later. Unfortunately, Graham is not up for re-election this time around. So what's happening with you guys? Who's first?
So you mentioned the QAnon lady over there in Horry County. So the other item that was in the news this week was up in Michigan. Did you hear about the family that was killed because the daughter said her father basically went down the QAnon rabbit hole?
No, I didn't hear about that.
It's a super sad story. The guy killed him. Well, I think maybe the police killed the father, but the father killed the wife and the dog. And then the daughter somehow survived. She was rushed to the hospital, but she sent a scathing, how media is this day. I mean, even if she would have contacted them, something like this unfortunately would have to happen. But she basically was, skinning these QAnon people alive. Said that you are purposely putting out this nonsense bullshit all the time, and people believe it.
All
But
right.
you say over there in South Carolina, the lady is bowed out. She was too crazy for him.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, she got kicked out.
Hmm.
She resigned, um, along with all of the other leaders of the party, because the state party apparently set up some rules that were designed to keep the MAGA people from infiltrating the overall party structure. And that pissed off these locals here in Horry County, including this Tracy Beans lady, who she was the EC, the executive committee person, I guess, that would be working with the state party. She was a QAnon lady, and so they got all upset and walked out and said they're not going to do it anymore. And so this is all in the middle of a campaign. We got people running for the state legislature and for Congress. Now, I don't think the congressional seat there's any chance really that the Democrat can knock off this Russell Fry guy who beat Tom Rice, the Republican that voted to impeach Trump. I don't really think that. I think Fry will probably win just because the Democratic candidate uh, doesn't have any money and he hasn't been really running that visible of a campaign. Now maybe things will heat up as we get closer to the election. But on the state legislative front, where I do think that there's a chance that the Democrats can make some inroads, and the fact that the Republicans are in such disarray will certainly help. The question is, are there enough sensible Republicans and independents who will cross over and vote for a Democratic candidate? That's a good question. One of the seats is uncontested. It's a new seat. And so the Democratic candidate there has a pretty good shot. The Republicans are hiding. They won't participate in debates. The League of Women Voters has been trying to set up a debate. The local college has been trying to set up a debate. And the Republican candidates are apparently they're running scared. I don't know what they're doing, but they're not agreeing to any of these debates.
We've got the same situation here. Is there some kind of a national deal with the GOP that they're not going to debate? I mean, is
Well,
there some sort of secret policy?
I don't know, but it's from all my experience in politics for over I don't know how many decades. Incumbents who feel like they have everything to lose and nothing to gain from debating refuse to debate, and it just that happens. And largely, usually it's the Republicans that do that, and I don't know why that is, but I guess right now a lot of the issues are stacked against the Republicans. I mean, this abortion thing with the Supreme Court uh, uh, and all these states enacting these crazy abortion laws is not helping the Republican cause because there's so many people that are just more sensible than that. And everything I've read, they're losing a lot of ground they thought they had gained. Now, whether or not I don't you guys think that the whole issue is going to be inflation, though, in the end, what happens with the economy?
Well, I think after yesterday's report and the stock market reaction and all that, I thought up until yesterday that the inflation issue was beginning to recede.
Yeah.
That Republicans were having a hard time mounting an offensive based on inflation. But then yesterday happened, and but on the other hand, the price of gas is still, I don't know what it's like in your area, but around here, the price of gas has gotten down to 3.20, 3.25 a gallon. And it's continuing to reduce.
Yeah, I saw 2.99 the other day.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, you guys have got good gas prices down there. I drive down there to fill up every now and then.
Do you really? Well, I actually would. I drove to Atlanta over the weekend and back. And it was on my way back. I was in South Carolina that I saw 2.99. Here in Myrtle Beach, the price is around 3.20.
Yeah, that's what it is here.
But that's, I mean, hell, that's a far cry from where it was just a couple months ago when it was close to $5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was seeing a story recently that there are some Republicans that are scared that they have put so much of this, fire and brimstone into this, inflation thing. And every time I've asked, I said, Republicans, what would you have done about it? The only one answer, and this did not come from an elected official, it's this crazy, right-wing radio guy here in Atlanta. He said, well, we should have had less spending. And my rebuttal was, you guys were the ones that blew the tax code out of existence.
Sure.
And trillions of dollars but of course, Republicans, they're not that smart. Your average Republican Joe voter, and they have amnesia, and they cannot think past this far in front of their face.
What do you really think about Republicans, Robert?
And speaking of, we've got Herschel Walker here in Georgia.
Yeah.
The Daily Beast, I believe, 2 days ago, Herschel Walker is the saddest Senate candidate I've ever seen.
Wow.
He's an unqualified lying buffoon, and he's got a 50-50 chance of winning in Georgia. That goes back to what I just said.
Yeah.
Republicans, John Q. Republican, you cannot reason with them. You cannot.
Let me just tell you something. Like I said, I was in Atlanta. Well, I was in the suburbs of Atlanta. I was in some rich suburbs of Atlanta over the weekend. And this guy that
was you I saw stealing mail?
Huh?
Was that you I saw stealing mail?
Yeah, stealing mail. Yeah, so anyway, this guy who we were visiting along with I just tell you, it was some of my family. But this one guy who is my brother-in-law, he's fairly well off, let's just say, and he's an executive who works in finance, and he's been I've always thought he was pretty conservative, and I figured that he would be a Trump supporter. But no, he feels embarrassed by Trump, and I asked him what he thought of Herschel Walker, and he said, well, he was a buffoon, and he was embarrassed by Herschel Walker. Now,
but will he still go into the voting booth and mark that name because there's an R next to it?
I don't know. I really don't know. But that is a very, very, very important question, and I think that that's going to be the deciding factor in many, many cases, not just in Georgia, but around the country, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here in South Carolina, I told you we have some good candidates for the state legislature, but this area is solidly Republican, or has been, and whether or not one guy's name is Robert Thompson. He's 22 years old. he he's gay. He's openly gay, and he is really a good candidate. I'm telling you what, he's impressive, and he's a good public speaker. He's personable. People really like him, and they like his backstory. That he comes from his dad died when he was 11, and he helped support his mom by making pet toys and selling them online and to local shops around here. And the people like that story, and whether he can get that story told, widely enough is a question. The other candidate that I really like, her name is Ashlyn Priot. She's a mom of 3. She had 2 twins, and one of whom just got COVID. She's been stuck at home with this little kid with COVID and trying to campaign at the same time. But she runs a community organization called Grand Strand Action Together, and the Palmetto Abortion Fund, and which raises money to help people who need to get abortions. And she's a tough candidate. She's a good candidate. And I hope that she can make it. But again, the question is, even though people sympathize and like them, if they're Republican and with their history, is that what they're going to do? Just go in there and click on the R, and that'll be the end of it.
Well, we obviously see with Trump, well, depending on who you ask, but the majority of people, those folks that went in there the first time, held their nose and voted for him. But remember that more people voted for Trump the second time around than the first time around.
Right.
And you cannot stop. You have to keep the fight up, or they're just going to steamroll.
Yeah, they are.
Don't you think that the situation has changed with how people regard Trump, and I don't know whether I was just wishing his father to the thought or not, but it just seems to me that especially with this documents thing, which started off as not a big deal, really, but seems to be growing in stature every day, to the point now where you have former officials at the FBI claiming that the reason he keeps the document is because he wants to sell them. And information and the little kernels of information like that start getting around, and I mean now you really are talking about high treason if that's the case. How long do we have to go before Republicans begin to realize that this guy is not good for the country, and that if there's going to be a Republican Party in the future, they need to get behind the curtain and hit the D button.
Well, let's remember reality winner. That one document that came out years ago, of course, that proved to be true. That's why we're still talking about that guy Mar-a-Lago. She spent how many years in federal prison?
Yeah.
She didn't sell that document. She was concerned that nobody was telling the right story.
Yeah.
That imagine that there is a so-called president, a guy in the White House that did not win the electoral college, did not win the popular vote on the electoral college. And you see someone like her in this position with this document in front of her, and she's like, this is all BS. And of course she leaks it, and now we know what we know, but she served federal prison time. Mm-hmm. What she did, was it right or wrong? You can argue either way, but she didn't sell that document. I don't think she made a dime off of it. And she's, certainly spent a number of years in federal prison, which is what the guy in Mar-a-Lago needs to do. Apparently he is meeting on the golf course now because he's so worried about people listening and recording what he's saying. Bless his heart.
That's right. That's right.
The guy in Mar-a-Lago,
Oh, and did you hear about his buddy this week that got his phone confiscated at a Hardee's drive-thru?
Yeah, the My Pillow guy.
My whole comment was,
I know, I love this.
Yeah.
My whole comment. His cell phone. I'm going to do a blog about that.
Yeah, at least he knows to go to a decent, fast food breakfast place.
Well,
And
that's the thing. Wendy's. Was it Wendy's?
no, this
No,
is Hardee's.
Hardee's. That's right, Hardee's. We got the meat, right?
No, that's
No,
Arby's.
that's Arby's.
Oh, that's
Close.
Arby's. Oh, there
Yeah.
goes my blog idea. Oh, it's a good thing you told me because I would have really screwed that up badly.
Yeah. But, I mean, how embarrassing is that? You go out to a fast food restaurant and the FBI is tracing you, and that's the place they decided to stop you, was at a freaking fast food restaurant to confiscate your phone. And then one thing that he becomes an instant snowflake. He says, my hearing aids run off that phone.
What? His hearing aid?
The best writers in Hollywood cannot make this shit up.
No,
Wait a minute. His hearing aid?
Allegedly, and this is from Business Insider Africa. Take that for what it's worth. But he claims that his hearing aids ran off the phone.
well,
Bless his heart.
bless his heart. Well, and then you got it wasn't just a couple of FBI guys wandering up to his car by the carryout window. 15 cars full of agents surrounded him. 15 cars.
Can you imagine the cooks and the cashiers?
Oh man.
Like WTF.
15 guys going against the guy who hadn't hurt anybody. All he does is make pillows and tell lies. But
all they wanted to do was show up for their $15 an hour and make bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits, and they got to deal with that shit.
I know. Well, they got something to tell their grandkids when they get home.
That's right.
This is how embarrassing it is for this so-called regime that continues to ravage this country.
It's true. It's true.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Art.
this one tops the former mayor of New York's hair dye sweating down the side of his face.
Oh yeah, that does.
At the Four Seasons too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Four
The
Seasons.
Four Seasons what? The Four Seasons what was it? Was it
Lawn care, because they couldn't figure out how to
Half the hotel.
look
Which
beyond
was-
Four Seasons. Yeah.
which was next door to a crematorium, wasn't it?
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Jeez.
I think so. I think I remembered reading that.
Oh,
Keep on voting Republican votes. Just keep on, because
a place where they take dead bodies to.
it's appropriate.
To make it look real.
Oh man. So then we have Lindsey Graham, and he comes up. It seems to me like it's really a stupid political move, but he comes up with this nationwide abortion bill. And from what I'm reading, the Republicans are all split. They don't know what the hell to do. Half of them are saying we don't have anything to do with that. And that's what Mitch McConnell's saying. And so I don't know. What do you think about all that?
well, McConnell's saying it's not a federal issue; it's a state issue.
Right.
But if it's a federal issue, then why did the Supreme Court rule on it?
Right.
It is a federal issue, and there is a real threat that if the Republicans take over the Senate, at that point, McConnell will swallow his pride once again and probably let a bill go through that would ban abortion across the country. I think, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm still pretty optimistic. I think there's 5 seats that can switch to the Democrat side in the general election, including here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of national attention being paid now to Sherry Beasley, who's already won a statewide contest. She's a chief of the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, and she knows how to run a campaign. While Ted Budd, whose previous claim to fame before he got elected to Congress was owning a gun store outside of Charlotte, has disappeared. Which takes me back to my earlier question about: is there a policy that Republicans are not supposed to campaign? He hasn't.
Well, it depends on how embarrassing they are. So obviously, he's pretty embarrassing.
I guess. He's pretty, but he hasn't been to any debates. He hasn't been to any town halls. He hasn't been doing anything. Beasley, meanwhile, is traveling around the state. She got like you, Bob. I live in a pretty red county, and but we had a Beasley rally about a month ago, and the place was bulging at the seams. There were hundreds of people there, and including a lot of independents who came up to me and other people and said, "Look, I'm an independent, and I know I'm standing in the middle of Brunswick County Democratic headquarters, but I'm voting for her." So I think if she's doing that well in my county, I can imagine she's probably doing very well in the Triangle area and in Charlotte, and the city of Charlotte, and some of the western portions of the state. I think she's going to do well.
Yeah.
We have a guy who's running for the state legislature. Just to add on to what Bob was saying earlier, we've got a guy who's a great candidate. He's a retired Marine colonel, 30 years in service. He was the chairman of our party until he decided to run for the legislature. He's fighting like hell for women who want to have a right to choose, and he's a very, very credible candidate. A lot of veterans organizations have gotten behind him, and he's another guy that Republicans could sneak into the voting booth and vote for. So I think he has a good chance of unseating the incumbent, who's been around for about 20 years and who hadn't really done anything at the legislature level. And I just think that I think he has a good shot. So we've got some good candidates. We got another guy running in a congressional district outside of Charlotte named Jeff Jackson, who's just been tearing it up. He's been great. And it's an open seat because it's a new district. So I think he has a good shot at winning that one. He's got a real good sense of humor too. He said he was doing some campaigning, and he's going door to door, and knocked on one door, and a woman opened the door and her dog got out. And so the dog runs across the street, and so Jeff Jackson, the candidate, he goes running after the dog, and he chases the dog around the back of a house, and there's this guy sitting on his porch smoking a cigar, and he says, "Are you Jeff Jackson?" And he says, "Yeah, I am." He says, "You're running for Congress?" He says, "Yeah." And he says, "You were across the street campaigning?" He says, "Yeah." And he says, "Is that her dog?" And she says, "Yeah." He says, "Yeah, wait a minute." And he gets on his lawn tractor and he kind of herds the dog down, and the dog runs back home. And just the perils of campaigning. And he wrote a nice fundraising letter about it, which was nice. So I think he's good. I think he has a good shot at evening up the congressional delegation in Washington as far as North Carolina is concerned. I think we're in better shape than we were a few months ago.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Well, I was going to say also up there, Josh Remillard. Do you know the name?
Yeah.
So he's over in Madison Cawthorn's district, who that district, sent Madison home.
Yep.
With all the antics that he was pulling, but that's a pretty red district, as I understand it, right?
It's a very red district, and he has pretty much, he's on the same side of the political spectrum as Cawthorn is, except he's smarter.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll probably keep a lower profile because he's going to get elected when he gets up to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
He's older. I mean, he's older. He's guy's in his 50s, so he's got some discipline. So I think that's a lock for Republicans.
Yeah, the tactic though of not doing town halls, not doing debates, it's been going on for years. You've got Barry Loudermilk, whose district joins up to Marjorie's district. Marjorie's district, of course, is extremely red. She probably will win, unfortunately. But right next door, you've got Barry Loudermilk, who has been in office for probably close to a decade now. And if you look at the votes between Marjorie and Barry and the Trumpsters, they're right, beating the drum right there together. Barry is easier to beat, but nobody knows anything about him. He won't do debates. He won't do town halls. And he's just ridiculous. And then, of course, we talked about Herschel Walker, they keep going back and forth between the Warnock campaign allegedly claiming that they want to do one in Savannah and this whole debate BS. If you look at how Reverend Warnock made it into the Senate, was that crazy Fembot, that was up there before, and all she could do was just stand there and repeat the same words over and over again, and she lost.
Mm-hmm.
So Kelly Loeffler, and I think they look at that, and these people are just begging them, just shut your mouth, let the ads do what they're doing, and just go in hiding if you can or just ride on that bus. They seem to all have buses, and they go around the state, shaking hands at photo ops. But
well, Tommy Tuberville, how long has he been up on Capitol Hill now? 2 years. And once he got elected, except for his voting, which is
you don't hear a thing from him.
Don't hear a thing. Yeah.
No.
And that's the way it's probably going to be. It's going to continue to be that way. That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, they seem to be running for cover right now.
Who, Tuberville?
Yeah, him and just basically a lot of the Republicans, they just seem to be hunkering down, right?
Yeah.
Well, you got Kemp here in Georgia running for governor. He will barely talk about Trump, but he's not going to say anything negative about Trump because that's the majority of his base.
Yeah.
Well, Trump sure has a lot of negative things to say about him.
Yeah.
Or did anyway in the primary.
Yeah.
Well, last month I did a podcast interview with a guy named Michael P. McDonald, who is a pretty well-known political analyst and a professor of political science in Florida. And Michael's take was that Republicans in the Senate are in trouble largely because of what he calls their crummy candidates. And he, of course, Herschel Walker kind of led the list of who he felt fit that description. And Michael's written a book about politics called From Pandemic to Insurrection, and talked about the impact of the pandemic on the election and so on. And he also runs a website called electproject.org, which does the election statistics that are widely used by media, and he participates in the decision desk that calls elections after the polls close. We're going to have him on the Dixie Dems episode in October. So I'm looking forward to that. He's a smart guy, and he'll be talking about Florida politics as well as national. So it'll help us broaden our Dixie scope from into Florida a little bit.
Yeah, I look forward to that. It'll be interesting getting his perspective. I guess we need to read his book before next month, right?
Yeah, so it's just out. It's just been out. And his website, by the way, is electproject.org. That's the one that disseminates election statistics. He's a smart guy, and I think you guys will enjoy talking to him. And for you guys that are listening, I hope you just watch the Lean to the Left .net website and click on the podcast tab at the top. And I keep a running list of who's going to be on and when and what they're going to be talking about. And so you'll find the date on that. Our interview is scheduled to be in the middle of October. It'll be aired shortly after that.
Be just in time for the election too.
Yeah,
we got
that
may be our last episode before the election.
Yeah, I think it probably will be. Yeah.
Some shout outs to organized labor. You've got a number of strikes and or threats of strikes. There's a band of nurses up in Minnesota that are making quite a stir this week. The the hospitals that they all work for had to go to the extra expense to hire scabs to come in and replace all those nurses as they're striking this week. You also got a potential strike at Delta. You got the pilots there. You've got a railroad strike potentially.
Major railroad strike.
I'm concerned about that railroad strike, especially in this economic situation that we're facing.
Yep. So be on the lookout. But kudos to organized labor. The last I looked, it is legal to have a union here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I've never been represented by a union, but everything that I've read about. Did I talk about the union out in Las Vegas a couple episodes back for the folks that work in the casinos?
Okay. I thought you were talking about another occupation.
No, there could be one of those too, but no, the workers in the casinos out in Las Vegas. I always love that story and everything they have done for immigrants coming here legally, getting them trained and so forth. The unions are pretty cool. So,
yeah, I think I think the interesting things are going on. You've got a fire brewing in Starbucks. You've got and of course Amazon. Lots of ink on what's going on with various warehouses and so on, and the Amazon empire. So, and I think I agree with you, Bob. I think we're past due for there needs to be a reckoning. There needs to be a balance between the power of big business and labor, organized or not.
And these Republican talking points that time has passed for unions. No. That's bullcrap.
Yeah,
I see a resurgence of unions, and I think you guys are nailing it right there.
Well, I think changing the subject a little bit, we had another event here in North Carolina that I think was significant. The Republicans were trying all over the state to eliminate Sunday voting. By the way, we've started with the mail-in absentee ballot have been mailed out by the various county boards of election, and people are actually starting to vote now in North Carolina. But anyway, they also have a lot of pre-election day voting, in-person voting, and the Republicans launched a campaign in the state to try to keep people from voting on Sunday. It was kind of interesting, and we went back and did a little research on it, and found out that the numbers aren't big, but they're significant. A lot of people, when they're voting on Sunday, go to church, come out of church, and go vote.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in not only in Brunswick County but across the state. So the Republicans tried this, and in Brunswick County, it's 3-2 Democrats who make up the county board of elections, and they voted 3-2 to block the Republican effort. Problem is, rules are it has to be unanimous, so that meant it had to go to the state board of election. So it did, and lo and behold, the Democrats prevailed, and the Republican initiative was defeated. So there will be Sunday voting in North Carolina during this election period, and I think that's another way that Democrats will be helped. I think, because I think most of the people who do vote on Sunday will probably vote Democrat.
Souls to the polls, as I've heard them call it.
Exactly right, and that can only be good.
So that's just one of the things that the Republicans are trying to do to screw up the elections this time.
Yeah. Oh, just wait here in Georgia. It is going to be a dumpster fire. So you can request a mail-in ballot in Georgia right now, but it cannot be mailed, I believe, until 28 days prior. So sometime in October. So that that was one of the sticking points. And then speaking of, you used to have the ballot drop boxes. Those have all been moved indoors. So if you need to, instead of mailing your ballot, which you're still welcome to, if you want to go drop it off at the library down the road, they moved it inside. So you have to go during library business hours. Heaven forbid,
Hey, did you guys hear about the situation here in Horry County where in the county council race, this was back in the primary election, at the county council race, about 1,000 Democratic ballots were sent to Republican voters by mistake.
Ooh.
And the guy
Somebody was trying to tell them to vote the right way.
And the guy that voted, or the guy that was defeated for board chair, lost by a couple hundred votes. And so he, of course, challenged the fact that 1,000 Democratic ballots had been sent out to Republican voters, and claimed that had that not happened, he'd have won. But the Republican Party refused to. I guess they could have had a recount or re-election or something, and they refused to do whatever it was he wanted. And he appealed to the state, and the state said no. And so I don't know if the guy's taking it to court or not, but I thought it was pretty funny. The media called us up and wanted to know meaning us, the Democratic Party, wanted to know what the Democratic Party thought about it. And we said, well, we don't care. I mean, it's not our fight, right?
Did the people who got the Democratic ballots also get Republican ballots?
They got Democratic.
They just got Democrats.
I think so.
They must have been confused.
Yeah. They're going like, what?
Who
are these people?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Our voting here in the U.S. is so bureaucratic and so unnecessary. I think it's worse than healthcare in this country. In Canada, you can go to the mall and just stop by while you're shopping and vote.
Yeah.
It's just why is it so freaking difficult? Oh, and here in Georgia, if you were stationed overseas, if you're in the military, you are allowed to vote online here in Georgia.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
But nobody else. You have to be like deployed out of state, out of the country.
Yeah.
Because that would be amazing. But
how does absentee balloting work in Georgia?
So you do not have to have a reason, but it's not as easy as it was. So during the pandemic, a little bit of a history lesson, there was a website set up by the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, who most everybody knows his name. He's an engineer by trade, and he went to Georgia Tech, as I understand. And he set up a website that you just go in if everything was automated, and that would actually trigger your mail-in ballot during the pandemic. Well, that's all been stopped because, of course, you've got all these people like Rudy Giuliani coming to the state with his, hair dye running down his shirt and, screaming and hollering that there's voter fraud. So now if you have a Georgia driver's license, you can put that 9-digit driver's license number on the form. But if you do not, you have to actually put a copy of any number of other acceptable forms to get this form. And you must fill it out by hand, and you can scan it and email it or fax it, but it has to be a paper form. They're not accepting anything electronic.
Yeah, in North Carolina, you can get an absentee ballot electronically. You can go online and get it. It takes a couple of minutes. It's actually pretty painless.
Heaven forbid, that you've got to have a printer. You've got to go to the library or something like this. Why does it have to be this difficult?
Good question.
South Carolina, we have to have a witness. You have to have a witness signature on your absentee ballot.
Yeah, I think
actually you need to call Lindsey Graham. Say, Lindsey Graham, I need a witness. Come up here with
me. Oh man,
he'll probably say he'll do it if you give him his vote on the abortion bill.
That's true. Okay, guys, got anything else?
One other thing here in Metro Atlanta, there are presently 2 level 1 trauma units in the city of Atlanta. One of those is about to close. Alleged nonprofit Wellstar Health System bought this particular hospital, Atlanta Medical Center, a number of years ago, and it is in a tough part of town. But the other one, Grady, that has been here, my grandmother was treated at Grady when she was, and it's been here forever. That will be the only level 1 trauma unit in the city of Atlanta. After, again, alleged nonprofit Wellstar is going to close the other second Atlanta Medical Center. I don't think that story's over with. I think there's more to see there, so we'll see.
Probably so. Yeah.
Well, I've got a QAnon type story.
Okay.
That has its roots in history. Thomas Jefferson led the fight on the Louisiana Purchase, right?
Yeah.
It was Thomas Jefferson who was responsible for the Louisiana Purchase. I always thought that it was a fairly straightforward transaction that Jefferson and his representatives negotiated with France to purchase Louisiana, and they agreed to a price, and that was it. Turns out that it was much more complicated than that, because there were competitive bids coming in. Mexico wanted to purchase Louisiana territory, and so did Germany. So you had this competition going on between the four nations to buy Louisiana, and finally it looked like Mexico was going to win. So one night they loaded up a ship with the money that they were going to use, the coins that they were going to use to buy Louisiana Purchase, in San Juan, and cruised across San Juan to St. Thomas, which at that time was, I guess it was
British, maybe.
Yeah, maybe British. Yeah. Anyway, it wasn't Spanish, and it was sunk in the harbor. Now, the question is, why did it sink? Who sank it? And I'll bet you Thomas Jefferson was behind it. What do you think?
I don't know.
Make a good book, huh?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, you guys have seen Hamilton, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's
right.
one of the major characters there.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway,
Okay.
we were in St. Thomas for 2 weeks, and I heard that story, and I said, man, that would make a hell of a book.
Beautiful beaches, though. St. John's,
Yep.
which is actually a U.S.
Yeah,
almost looks
really
like that behind you there, Bob.
Maybe that's where I'll go for my next big birthday that I told you about.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, there for your 80th birthday.
Yeah. Okay, guys, it's been great talking to you, and we will be looking forward to our October episode with Michael P. McDonald, and should be an interesting time just before the election.
Sure.
So with that, I thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Bob. Good to see you. Take care, Bob. Both Bobs.
Okay. Hey, guys, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this Lean to the Left video, and you'll come back on a regular basis and check out our interviews with guests on topics that I hope you find interesting, entertaining, and enlightening. Our audio interviews stream weekly on Mondays, and depending on what's going on, also on Thursdays. And many are also produced as videos like this one. In addition, we provide narrations of much of the commentary published on the Lean to the Left blog, commentary by some excellent writers with perspectives on a whole range of topics. Now you can sign up as a member at leantotheleft.net, and of course it's all free. Also, let your friends know about this podcast and take a minute to subscribe. Just go to podcast.leantotheleft.net and you can subscribe there. You can also check out the upcoming interview schedule, and you can listen to all of our episodes too. You can also support this podcast by clicking on the Donate tab at the top of the page, where you'll find links to buy me a cup of coffee and also PayPal. Follow us on social media. Facebook at the Lean to the Left Podcast, Twitter at Lean to the Left 1, Instagram at Not Fake News. Now remember, our goal is to be informative and entertaining as we comment on the latest developments in the news. You guessed it, with just a little lean to the left. Now this is Bob Gaddy signing off for Lean to the Left. Thanks for sharing your time with us.